Welcome to the first Design Build Delivers podcast bonus content episode of the year, brought to you by US CAD and Archons Company. I am your host, Erin Looney, and if you enjoyed our January episode, Looking Back, Building Forward with Lisa Washington and Tom Foley, lucky for you, we have more. Here, we talk a bit about the legislative winds shaping Design Build's future. Plus, Tom shares a lighthearted, slightly, maybe a little jilted look back at one of the most popular DBIA conference sessions in recent years. And you've both talked a little about affecting change, and I already mentioned this earlier, but some of the most popular material we put out from the communications team, including the podcast and the Design Build Delivers blog, is focused on legislation. And some of the places and some of the ways that Design Build Authority has been expanded through that legislation. And you both mentioned the regions and the chapters. So talk now about what role DBIA National can play in the legislative arena and in supporting those efforts.
Well, I would just say on a purely selfish point of view that we as in New York City have been advocating for alternate delivery, which includes CM Build, Progressive Design Build. This is how it was packaged up in Albany, and for 3+ years, my team and I have been advocating for this, literally knocking on doors. And it was only through the efforts of Lisa and Richard and team that we were successful. The governor signed off on our alternate delivery right before Thanksgiving. So there was a sigh of relief for us in the city. It wasn't easy. It was a long process. We as in DDC, Department of Design and Construction, were singled out as an agency in the city for this. So our next goal is obviously of sharing this great tool with our colleagues. We'll be running pilots and things like that. So once the elected officials and that get more comfortable with how this is done, I would imagine I'll continue to advocate for my colleagues that New York City would have an expanded use of these amazing tools. On a national level, it's so important from a lessons learned perspective and more of a pulse of what's coming up. The landscape changes constantly. And with DBIA, we're always ahead of that. And I think that's really with key. Would not have been possible without an amazing partnership with Lisa and her team in order to get New York City the tools that it needs.
Tom, I think your partnership with National was sort of a model. You look to National for the education, the research, the data, the facts. Erin, what National does not have is we don't have a political action committee, a PAC, as some people call it. We don't have money to give to candidates. Our advocacy is focused on educational advocacy, providing that information. Now, at the region level, they may hire lobbyists or go the extra mile to affect change, but our role at National is to provide that framework, that data, that information that is needed for those at the grassroots level to affect that change.
And that's something that helped us when we as in DDC with my team and I advocating in the halls of Albany for progressive design build, for alternate delivery, several years ago for design build. And it was always for the elected officials, what does your membership look like? How is it set up? So as Lisa indicated, having that membership there, having that core, obviously the regions and the local chapters, but the membership and how that drives. And then having others in the room from AIA, ACEC, contractor associations, everybody being on the same page. Each of those associations are all involved with DBIA. So everybody is nodding their head around the table with the elected officials so that they know that we're not trying to get something past them. This is common sense. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell, quote unquote, in the halls of Albany and DC for that matter. But it's so important to have that membership to get the word out, because at the end of the day, it provides more opportunity for everybody.
You said it's not sexy, but there is a lid for every pot. There might be someone who's really into this and they're excited to be at that table.
I would say have them give me a call. I'm married, but I'll be happy to talk about design build. They probably should have went to the dating game at the last, absolutely.
People are still talking about that.
Yeah, and Lisa, I'm going to have to do another one because there was literally no exaggeration. As I was flying out from Dallas, there was some flight delays. The airport was very, very busy. And I would say there was at least half a dozen people at different times that had approached me that said that they voted for me. So there will be an investigation at some point. I know Dave Triplett from the FBI is looking into this. We'll see what we can do.
I'm calling Ernst & Young to do an audit, yes.
Well, let's not put any more conspiracy theories out into the world.
Aaron and Lisa, those sell as well, the conspiracy theories.
They do. And that's a really fun one, the dating game conspiracy theory. And with no warning, we've gone from design build legislation to a not so scandalous dating game investigation. Now, if you missed it, the dating game was a fan favorite session at the 2024 Design Build Conference and Expo in Dallas. It was a creative twist on the classic TV show with a design build spin. Tom took the stage as one of the owner bachelors alongside Janice Zahn from the Port of Seattle and Jim Kehoe from Van Trust Real Estate, while Hensel Phelps' Catherine Woodworth was the design builder bachelorette who was tasked with choosing the perfect owner partner. Now, technically, Janice officially won the game, but as Tom mentioned, the audience may have had some other thoughts. I'm not taking anything away from Janice. I say she won fair and square. Are you ready for more DBIA conference fun and, of course, some work? Join us March 19th through 21st in National Harbor, Maryland for our spring specialty conferences on water, wastewater, and transportation aviation. Visit dbwater.com and dbtranspo.com for all the details. As always, a big thank you to USCAD for making the Design Build Delivers podcast possible. Until next time, keep building forward and maybe keep an eye out for any surprise audits.